Welcome to the Acrylic Portrait Painting Challenge Masterclass, lesson number 7B, adding more nuances and smoothing layers to your portrait. Adding more nuances and smoothing layers to your portrait. Hey, I hope you're doing well, and I look forward to showing you the next steps in this process on our portrait of the man praying. I've been seeing some fantastic portrait paintings, again, posted in our Facebook group. Thank you so much for posting your progress, and you're doing a wonderful job. I mean, I'm just so impressed and so proud of you for sticking with it here through some of the challenges, really bringing your portrait to a high state of completion. I'm liking the composition. I'm liking the contours of the man praying and the pose you've captured. I'm liking the expression on his face, the highlights, the details on the map, and a whole bunch of other things as well. Great job in that. Keep up the good work. Now, in this stage here, we're going to continue on in the process. I was going to do a lesson number 8, but it just takes more time than what you think to build that painting up to a level of completion. We spent a lot of time in the first few foundational lessons. Once we get the painting closer toward the end, you kind of see less actually happening. The changes we make are very slight and incremental, but they're very important. And getting these little nuances in there, we need to take our time just so we can really build the painting up to a nice level of finish. I would love this to be a masterpiece for you, and I want to help you to finish your portrait well. So instead of doing lesson 8, I'm kind of giving you an extra one, lesson 7B here. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter lesson, maybe about a half an hour. And I'm just going to show you some next steps here to prepare you for lesson 8, where we bring the painting home. All right, so before we begin, let's dive in with the word of prayer. Father, I ask a blessing on this class, on this challenge, lesson 7B. I just pray you bless the lesson. Help me to be able to teach us well. Father, I pray I would get out of the way and just let you be glorified in this. Of course, I have to hold that brush, and I'm going to be mixing acrylic on my palette, but just bless me as I do it. Bless the students, Lord. Enable them to be able to finish their portrait well, to get this to a high level of completion. If there's any challenges that they're struggling with right now, unresolved areas, I pray you give them confidence and peace to overcome, and any help that they need also, Lord, within the Facebook group. But Lord, I'm asking a blessing on this lesson, and just help us to work on this well today in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, well, I'm going to add a little bit of matte medium here to the palette, and I'm going to just work with this round brush. I have a round brush that's been working pretty nicely, and then I'm going to just add this right here, and this is our, what do you call it? It's our white card. So we're just setting that up, and let's do a little bit of work on his hand, his wrist area, the clothing, and I think we're going to get this to a higher level of completion there. Okay, so I'm going to take some titanium white, a little bit of ivory black, mix those together, and then we're going to basically take that and just kind of go over some of the pencil lines. We want to smooth out and basically obscure some of these pencil lines. If you're wondering when we are going to do that, well, this is the stage where we do it. So just kind of go all over your image and look for these little areas where you're seeing the pencil lines, and start to basically blend them out. Now, go over that edge a little bit. I'm going to go over his face and just kind of, again, smooth that out a little bit as well. Kind of get in some of the eyebrow area, lighten that up a little bit. Okay, again, we just want to soften these areas up. Now, as we go over some of these pencil lines, we might lose a little bit of contrast, so we're going to have to put that back in again. just with brushwork. But again, we're just kind of going over the whole thing and just obliterating some of these pencil lines. We're going to go over to this left-hand side here and the same kind of thing. Let's go over some of those pencil lines. Now I lost the edge as I went over that one part, so I'm going to have to add some ivory black and just get that a little darker, get that edge restored right there. If you're wondering what it looks like on the white card, show you right here, this is what we've got. Right, that's what that looks like. But let's just kind of continue to go over the whole area, and we're just going to obliterate some of these pencil lines. So on the Bible, we go over that, soften that up. You'll have to lighten up the colors in certain areas. So here I'm adding some titanium white because it's a little bit too dark for that area. This is more of a highlighted part, so I just had to lighten that up a little bit. Now let's do a little bit of work on the eyeglasses, and just want to bring that to a higher level of completion. There we go. So we're going to add a couple of little reflections here on the frame. We also want to add these darker tones. And you will find that the paint needs to be very fluid. So you probably want to spray your palette, really get that nice and damp. We're just going to go over the pencil lines and just again obliterate them out with this kind of grayish color. And then once that's done, we can go over it with more paint and really get that exact shape dialed in. Now let's go ahead and we'll put in a little more ivory black down here. We're just developing, you see a little bit of a gradation even on the palette. So we've got, you know, it's dark right here, a little lighter, a little lighter. So we're just developing the sense of gradation here. And that way you can pick and choose from any area on your palette without having to reinvent the wheel, and just keeping your different tonal values separate from each other as much as possible. Of course, there is some blending and some convergence in there, and that's good too. All right, well, just getting a little bit of a reflection from that bow of the eyeglasses frame. That's good. Now let's get some differentiation on the table, and we're going to put in just a little bit of shading up here, showing that just showing that we have a little bit of a reflection coming from the curtain. I'm going to some titanium white, just kind of blending this out. We do want to get a little bit of shading right there. Like I say, we're just going to blend out the edges ever so slightly. There we go. Just blend those edges out. All right, that's good. Now let's go ahead and adjust the shape of his arm, the outer contour. I want to make sure that I've got some titanium, straight titanium white. I'm putting it on the top here of my palette. And what I want to do is just, like I said, adjust that top part of his arm. So we're going to bring this edge out a little bit higher right here. Just like that. Just like that. Okay, now add a little bit of ivory black, bring it to the bottom with just a bit of ultramarine blue. As it gets a little bit darker in value, we're using less white. We need that ultramarine blue just to compensate a little bit for the warmth of the ivory black. Now we're going to cut along the inside using the color of the curtain. And we're just gonna, yeah, we want to make sure it's not too dark here though. Just cut along the interior edge. So we have the shape of his cuff, and then that intersects with the actual shape of the outside edge here of the arm. All right, we'll just blend this in. I'll just bring this edge up the curtain. A little bit of contrast there on the table. All right, and now let's fill in this area on the Bible, just kind of make those pages a little more opaque. Just want to use the same glaze for that. Go over that edge a little bit, so it's going to have a gradation. It'll get a little bit darker here, a little bit lighter as it goes toward the arm. It's catching a little bit of the reflected light there. All right, so now let's do a little bit of work on his face. We're just going to kind of hop over in some different spots, and we're going to do just a little bit of work on his face in general. We want to really make sure that expression is showing kind of the forlorn look of somebody who's searching anxiously for God with desperation and perhaps a little bit of weariness. We want to show that on his face, and also just kind of the sense of him being contemplative. And you might see a few other things in there as well. But you want to bring out those expressions. So we're going to just add a little bit of a concentric eyelid fold right here. So just put a little bit of shading right around the edge, and that just shows some of that separation between his eye socket and the rest of the face. And then we also want to get a little bit of the forehead furrows, these transverse forehead furrows, otherwise known as wrinkle or worry lines. And we get that in there as well. And then we have just a little bit of a lock of the hair. Let that flow into the rest of his face. Now here we have some of these forehead furrows. And a little bit of shading right there to blend it in. All right. Blend this in a little bit more. There we go. And I want to blend this in with his hair now. So now I'm taking some of these medium values. Let's show you this on the white card. That's what that looks like right there. And we just want to blend in some of these darkest tints with the rest of his hair. All right, so we have these small little shapes, and now we're moving that to some larger shapes. I'm going to thin this glaze out just a little bit with some matte medium, so it's a little bit lighter, and then that allows me to blend this in just a bit more into the rest of the hair. I'm going to blend in a little bit here on the edge, get a bit of a nuance on that side. And that can make a difference. Now I just can sense that his wrist can benefit from this glaze. It's almost in the proper temperature. So I'm just going to add a little matte medium and some titanium white to that. And I just want to darken this area of his wrist a little bit more. It's just a bit darker than the sleeve. That's important too. We'll put some nuances in here. Excellent. All right, let's do just a little bit of nuance work on the hands. We're going to add some titanium white and that kind of grayish color. So just a medium grayish color. And you can see the opacity if we just move this over a bit. I have this marker, black line. That's how opaque it is. So you can see through it a little bit. And we're going to take this then. Let's zoom in just a bit on his hand. And let's go ahead and connect this highlight on the edge of his finger. Yeah, this sliver of a highlight right here. Let's connect it with this next highlight, but not using straight white, but kind of a light gray. It gives us a good little segue in between. I do need to add just a little more white to that. So the values are really close. And I think that helps. We just continue to add a little more shading to this, get the underside illuminated a bit more as well. Let's add a little bit more titanium white, get this brush to a tip. Now this is a pretty large round. This is a size, what is this? Size 18 or size 10, I think it is, but we can just use the chisel edge of it if you get it to a nice round point. And then there's a little bit of the underside of the finger that has a slight crescent illumination on it. Just a little sliver. And then it just gets the second part of that joint. So might have to do a little bit of shading to blend that in. And in fact, I might have positioned that in the wrong spot. I think it should come down a little bit lower, just so as not to make that finger look too skinny. Maybe about right there. Yeah, I think that's good. All right, we're just going to kind of refine the shape of the outside part of his wrist and hand a little bit. This edge, we can define that a little bit more. All right, that's good. Now let's work on the lamp a little bit. All right, I would like to do a little bit of work on his face, just getting in the contrast between the highlights of the forehead and the nose and the hands, just to stand out a little bit more against the rest of the image. And that's super important, getting these high contrast areas, the highlights to really pop against the darkness of the background. That can just make or break a portrait. Well, it doesn't always break a portrait, but it definitely makes it. And it can enhance a portrait that's already looking good. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's take some titanium white, some matte medium. It's a little hard to see this here, but I just want to show you the mixture. I'll show you on the other camera. So here we go, titanium white, matte medium. All I'm doing is just thinning out that titanium white with the matte medium, making it more fluid. And then we're going to go and just kind of work on that forehead and just add a nice sliver here of a highlight. Just really emphasize the contour. A little bit of the eyebrow. We're going to touch this to a couple of points on his nose and really emphasize the highlights right there. A couple of spots on his hair as well. Just kind of get a couple of brush strokes going against, well, in the direction of the strokes of the hair, like that. Try not to get these highlights to go into the dark. They really need to situate where you already have some areas that are kind of light, kind of a mid-tone or slightly darker highlight. That's where you want to put these really light highlights. You don't want them to go flowing into the rest of the hair, or they're just not going to blend in. And it's all about making things blend in. That's so important. Now we can hit also his hand a little bit and just again, strengthen some of these highlights a bit more as well. There we go. Just hit those a little bit. A little bit of a highlight right here and right there. We're going to do that. And then we'll just add a little bit right here as well. We're just lightening up the sleeve. We'll go back to the upper part, this eyebrow area, and just make sure show a little of that texture and then also the shape. Now, what we can do is just blend in this highlight ever so slightly. It's too sharp. It needs to have just a little gradation. So we're going to go into this gray part of the mix right here. All right, just so you can see that on the palette, it's just this kind of medium area with ivory black and titanium white. And then what we're going to do is just add a little bit of that to the edge. That's too dark. Okay, let's go with this lighter part of the mix right here. All right, so that's a little bit lighter. And then what we want to do is really zoom in there up close. And we're going to get just a little bit of a highlight that diffuses the edge. Now we need something kind of in between those two. Let's just darken that a bit more. Something in between those two. Just diffuse that edge a little bit, just like that. So we want to have a nice high contrasted area, but we want it to also have a little bit of gradation as well. And that's where you can really, really get that great sense of contrast. Now that we did that, let's push the other edge a bit more. So this would be the negative space behind that nose. We're just going to use this kind of medium gray. And we're going to just kind of flow that up to the edge. All right, and just really, really gently put that in. Radiate it away using this round brush. Let's just get to a little bit of a lighter part of this mix. All right, so we can get it just a bit darker as it gets closer to that area, and then just kind of diffuse it out ever so slightly. Just like that. We can kind of dab it a little bit and blend it out. But the main thing is just to get that really nice sharp edge right next to the nose. All right, so as we zoom out, you can see a little bit more how that's going to look. That really blends it in nicely, helps that to stand out really well. Gives that a great sense of contrast, but also a nice sense of gradation as well. Okay. Now, let's switch gears here. And what we're going to do is we're going to work on the chair. So the chair's kind of been neglected. Let's go ahead and get those spindles painted in, and then we'll be pretty close to having this lesson finished. Let's go ahead and work on that chair. Really get those spindles painted in here. All right, so what we're going to do is take kind of a medium gray. All right, so just a medium gray. It's kind of translucent. So here it is on the white card. You can see through it. I'd say it's about 50% opaque. I'll just show this to you really quick. This is what it looks like on the white card right here, as I'm painting on top of this black line. So 50% opaque. Might even need to make it more opaque. But what we're going to do is, you should be able to see your sketch lines yet. And what we're going to do is just paint highlights starting from left to right. And I might need to switch to my other brush. Switch to this brush here. I think this one will give me a little more control. It's just a better brush than the other one. Okay. So we're just adding kind of the ghost line of these spindles. We'll just start with that and just kind of fade our way down. So again, they're going to be wider at the top, or I should say wider in their spacing apart from each other at the top, and then just kind of blend or getting closer together as they get closer in. All right. So just kind of blend this all in here and get a little bit of a curve. I think the spindle has just the slightest bit of curve. There we go. So that would be it for those spindles. Well, it's not. I mean, that's it for the highlight. We're going to have to obviously do more and get the shadowed part of them, but that's the start. Now let's see if we can kind of obliterate some of these sketch lines a little bit while we're at this area. And then get a little bit of shading. Swipe off a brush and go to this darker part of the mix right here. And then what we'll do is we'll take that, go right over the top. So it's kind of opaque, semi-opaque. We get a little bit of the top of the spindle. Well, I don't know what this is called. Those are the spindles. This is part of the armature of the chair, whatever you call it. And then we'll go to a slightly lighter part of the mix. And we'll get in a little bit of the wood grain texture. All right, so a little bit of the wood grain texture. You need to add some matte medium, not make it too strong right away. Just a little bit of that wood grain texture. Just kind of dab that a little bit. Just something like that to start with, I think will be fine. We can do a little bit more later. We might need to also go in and add some highlights to that as well. I think that's good, and I do want to get a little bit of a blend out of this. So let's go to the slightly middle part of the mix, and we'll just get a little bit of contrast on the other side of this armature, blend out from there. Darken this area just a bit right here by his back. And then let's use this flat brush to radiate this out and blend it in. So we have to work pretty quickly, move into a lighter part of the mix that has some titanium white blended in. If you aren't able to do it all in one mix, then you can always try again on the next layer. It's going to darken this a bit more. Okay. I'll darken this side a little too. As we do these brush strokes kind of going across the grain, that does help to smooth it out a little bit. And you can actually do that on the other side as well. And then you can pull from a lighter part of your mix right here that almost has a lighter, almost titanium white to it, and just kind of blend out from there. So we're going to have to add some more roundness to that chair. It's looking a little flat right now because we just have that one line on it. So we're going to need to take our round brush and go over it with a gradation. Get kind of something right in the middle, and we start to blend that in. That's right here. Get a kind of middle tone there. Something in the middle. And blend that in, but it's going to take a little work. You do need to bring this shadow up a little higher for this spindle right here. The armature. Just blend that in. And we blend this area in right here. That's good. Now we're going to add some ivory black and a little bit of ultramarine blue. And we're going to add just some slight shadows to these spindles here. Just to the left-hand side because the light's coming from the right-hand side. There we go. And just kind of blend this all in here, getting a darker value at the bottom. I'm going to switch to a flat brush to kind of blend that out. Just like that. Somewhere in between these spindles, it could be a little darker too. So I want to make sure I fill them in using the edge of my brush, and I'm just kind of blending that right in there like that. All right. Now, let's do a little bit of work on that map. We can take our round brush, that larger round. That'll be this larger one here. And we're going to just go over a few of the areas on that map and just kind of adjust them out. So what we want to do is just go over some of these areas up here. We're making a semi-opaque glaze. I'll show this to you on the white card. So this is what it looks like right here. Yeah, this is what it looks like. Just a nice semi-opaque glaze. I'll set it right here so you can see it. All right, here it is on the white card. Got a little bit of opacity. And we want to go over basically a lot of our sketch lines, just kind of darken in a few of these areas on the map. And some textural areas. All right, darken this a little bit. Darken the tree underneath, get that shadow a bit darker. We'll darken the sailor's hair, that section just a bit. Couple of spots on him. Now I also want to darken a couple of the ornamentational parts on the frame. So just a few spots right up here. They would be more in shadow because they're very much opposite of the lamp. And there'll be a few areas on the top here of the frame that also will be getting some shadows as well. So I'm keeping it a little bit ambiguous right now, but leaving it open for some more detail. We'll move into a lighter part of the mix on my palette. And then just try to capture the overall design of this frame without getting too meticulous with it. I just want to overall darken it more on the top. And I think I need a little more definition right here on this inset. Darken that a little bit more. There we go. Now we're going to darken this line here. This has a little bit of the remnants of the sketch, so it's necessary to soften that up. Soften this area up a little bit. The shadow. And then go over this area a little bit as well. Just darken that and just graze that. Okay. So that's good. And I think this is where we're going to sit at for this lesson, for the end of this lesson. So this would be the end of lesson 7B. We accomplished quite a bit. We added some nuances throughout the image, added some highlights where we needed to add highlights. There's going to be more, but that's going to wait until lesson number 8. So I will finish with lesson number 8 and look forward to getting that out to you. I want to say thank you for watching this lesson. Thank you for being so diligent to put what you've learned into practice. I know that's going to make a huge difference for you as a portrait painter. It's going to help you to really be able to see these differences in tonal values and really get a sense for creating emotion in your images, contrast, and just visual interest throughout the image. So I hope that you have found this beneficial. And again, I really look forward to teaching you the last lesson. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Share it with your friends. Don't forget to sign up for the Portrait Challenge at realisticacrylic.com. It's not too late to sign up. You can still do that. And when you go to realisticacrylic.com, you should see the Portrait Challenge link. If it's not there, it's realisticacrylic.com/acrylic-portrait-painting-challenge. And when you sign up, we'll send everything to you that you need to paint along with us. But for now, thank you so much for watching. God bless. I'll see you in the next video.